Okay, welcome everyone to the February 7th Project Analytics Group Sync. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Some thumbs up, thank you. Cool, so just going to go through the list of open issues for now. We have deployed Project Analytics to GitLab project for specific opted-in users. I have some action items here actually to announce this a little bit more wider, just so we can get more people in there right now. I think there's only 3 people that have opted in, including this group. If you're interested in opting in so that we can collect data on the GitLab project itself, please feel free to add yourself to the issue description. Go ahead and skip over the 15-line planning issue. And we've got filtering sessions by date range. That was the exception. I believe this is the follow-up out of Jan's work for the date range dashboard level control. Mac, is there anything you want to speak to?
Yeah, probably move workflow in dev, because I'm in the process of attempting to fix it with varying levels of success. So yeah, this is narrowed it down to the problem is the join between the Jitsi or tracked events cube and the sessions one, because it's joining them with a greater than or equal to condition, and ClickHouse doesn't support that, so we can't do it. So you try and combine a session data with dimension from a tracked event, it just doesn't work. So that's because I followed the initial cube tutorial on how to do this, which is not geared towards ClickHouse. So I'm currently scouring the ClickHouse documentation for a more native friendly way to do this. So yeah, I'm in dev trying to find a solution for this.
Got it. Cool. This issue is for actually defining a collector host so that we can display that for instrumentation details. I think we covered that last week, so no movement here yet. And I also need to get the merge request where we kind of hack that together for the internal preview working, so we can correct that at least immediately. We have a new issue just for discussion here about the query designer. I think we have an agenda point, so we can come back to that later. So we can go ahead and move to planning breakdown. So our first issue here is the API to retrieve the state of a product analytics stack. Jan, is there anything you'd like to speak to here?
Not much to say in that the current plan that there is, I think, will hold up, but I'm currently just following the discussions around how generic our analytics listing and dashboard pages are going to be to see if it's going to influence this at all. I don't think it should, because this is more focused on the onboarding state of it, but I'm just keeping an eye on that. And once there's been some more consensus or progress there, I'll move this to ready for development.
If anything, this will make it easier for us to handle onboarding on the more generic listing.
Yeah, are you saying this is blocked by that discussion? Because I feel like onboarding is its own flow and the listings would just send you into it, and to what Rob said, this would make it easier.
Right, it's not blocked. I'm just making sure that there's not going to be any surprises down the line. Okay. So I'm just giving it like until the end of the week, basically.
All right. We have the dashboard retains fluid container after visiting a dashboard or the panel designer. Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to take this out or the milestone or not. It's up to you. It's a severity 4. I put it in, but we can always take it out if we choose otherwise. It is just that when you go to the panel designer or visit a dashboard and go back, rather than being constrained, it retains that full fluid container, which is a bit buggy, especially as we move to a shared listing.
Yeah, it would have eventually affect the dashboards you move in there, but I think for the severity and no, I opened a discussion to discuss whether it should be in this milestone or not, but we can follow the async. Cool, and then we've got the 2 dashboard issues for the audience and behavior. We might just want to close these out in favor of just having the follow-up issues, because at this point, I think we can just iterate from there. We also have changing default name for analytics event table name from Jitsi to something else. Max, anything you want to cover?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of done, although bad communication from me here. So the change in the GitLab repo is now fixed. So we're now referring to tracked events rather than Jitsi. but the change to the dev kit is going to production, and I think Dennis is looking at that now. So I assume it will be broken in at least Canary, if not production, until that's fixed.
So we have a merge request for the dev kit, and so I just need to promote those to production and we should be good to go. Is my understanding of that.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll do another I'll update the schema and or the cube files, and I'll do another Helm update. Cool. And then you've got the next one as well, Max.
Yeah, I've not really touched this. I think we've agreed tentatively that the initial iteration of this will just be a documentation change where we explain how you can pull the data out of Cube directly. So I don't know if Sam, you want me to create another issue for that specifically, or if I just tag an implementation plan onto this issue, the spike issue. It's up to you how you want to do that.
Well, so the spike was about getting the implementation plan issues created. So what I'd suggest is create an issue for the more effort involved, but probably longer term solution, and then create an issue to track just the documentation issues. We can put the bigger issue in a backlog and get it scheduled sometime in the future, and then we'll put the documentation issue in sooner.
Okay, I'll do that later this afternoon then.
Cool, thanks.
All right. This issue is unchanged. The scope has changed since I'm working to get the Redis working in a cluster environment, specifically like multiple masters and replicas. So that's a little taking a lower priority at the moment with the schema promotions that we have to do.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm so sorry. Please excuse me for my voice today. Know what happened with my throat. I realized that one of the issues that I was working on was not on the board. It didn't have a milestone. So can you please refresh so it appears there on the? I added it like after you loaded the page.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. So I'm currently working on this. This is basically, you all know that we have some issues with responsiveness and the width of the, and the way that the elements behave in different screens. And we also have this issue with the height that sometimes it can be unbounded, basically. So yeah, I'm solving this. I already have some early feedback from Rob. So yeah, hopefully we get this improvement out soon, so it looks way better.
Sounds good. You also have the next issue in review.
So I actually took more time than I expected on this issue. It was a bit more tricky than I thought. I moved it to review yesterday, but I'm actually doing also some changes, so it doesn't have any reviewers on it. But I'm expecting to have that in the next hours.
Sounds good. Rob, you have the next one.
Yep. This is in final backend maintainer review. The maintainer was off yesterday, so I'm giving them today, but if they still don't get to it, I'll swap to a different maintainer. Other than that, we've got all the reviews necessary to get this merged.
Do you want a backend maintainer? I can just look at it for you if you want.
I think you've already done the initial review on it as a domain expert.
Cool, don't use me then.
All right, well, hopefully we can get someone to do the final merge. Jan, you had the date range filter.
Yeah, thanks to Rob and Axel for reviewing this. It's working nicely, just some small changes that I need to make. And then I have a follow-up MR for this, or I split it into two MRs, one for adding the date range filters and the other one for syncing it with the URL managing state. The managing state change is also working nicely locally, so expect a new MR for one of you to review also within the next 24 hours, let's say.
Very cool. Then we got final analysis.
Yeah, this hasn't changed from last week because the changes to the schema aren't in production. I can't verify it on the main web application yet. I've got no reason to believe it doesn't work, but I can't say it's been verified.
Yeah, I'll promote the cubes first, and then I need to move the final changes and just make sure it doesn't break, but I'll focus on that next.
Cool, and then I'll submit I'll submit an MR to the internal handbook to define a funnel, and then we can see if it's working.
Sweet. All right. And then I think add button to go back to tracking view is our last bookmark. So we have, I think, 6 or so issues in the done closed column. So we have add dashboard items to the project analytics submenu. Rob, anything you want to comment on here?
If you want to enable the combined analytics dashboards feature flag, you can have your own dashboards item on the project level on the analytics submenu. It's the first step in the process of getting that shared dashboard listing completed.
Very cool. We have the competitive analysis, which was in support of our Q4 fiscal year 23 OKR. I believe I spoke to that previously. That's just closed for sake of completion. But free to check that out. And then Axel, you have the next two.
Yeah, so we have both GPC and the privacy mode on the SDK now, and we also introduced the concept of options to the SDK, because we were basically using them reactively, and it looks pretty good. I haven't. Rob mentioned that he could publish a new version of the package right after these two were merged. Although I haven't green lighted it, or I haven't bothered Rob with that because of what I'm working on right now with Lerna. But yeah, this is ready for a new version. Hopefully, after the review of my work with Lerna, we can publish a new version using that. Thank you.
Cool. And then next, you've got the ignore application setting for ClickHouse connection string.
Yeah, super boring. Just ignoring the column that is not encrypted, so we can continue using the encrypted one. I'll remove it in the next milestone.
Cool. And I have the last one. This was just a discussion about whether or not we need to make any more modifications to reference to Jitsu. But as the last group sync, we decided as long as it's not user facing, it's fine, as we'll eventually just swap everything over to Snowflower and such. So that covers our build review. Anything anyone would like to bring up? Any other issues that aren't on the board or anything like that? All right, then Tim, you have the next point.
I need to find my mute button behind the microphone. Yes, so great to see the progress. There was some discussion about, and Dennis called this out correctly, is that we should find a final name, as naming is hard. So I'm calling it once and twice and three, how we should name the query designer, to basically building dynamic data queries with a visualization for product analytics. That's what this thing does. We can call it around the queries. We can call it, we should include product analytics to some extent. It has a lot to do with the visualization, because maybe the user doesn't care at all if this is a query or whatever this is, as long as they get it on the screen. There was also the topic that this is definitely helpful as the basis of a data explorer, so that you simply don't build a new panel, but simply work and play around with the data. So it might be also linkable or reachable without the dashboard, for example. That was also something Sam mentioned at some point, that this might be helpful. So I don't care how we call it. As long as we have a name and everyone understands the name. So I see already a +1 from Dennis, but would love to hear Dennis's opinion and also others. So
yeah, I think, eventually we'll want to figure out how to give access or through the visual, I like visualization designer just because that's the output of that whole workflow, that you create a visualization based on whatever data source you needed to, and then that gets placed on a dashboard. So I'm just focused merely on the output. I can see us exposing a data explorer where it's just literally that without, adding a dashboard or something like that. But that's why I picked visualization designer, but I also really don't care. I just get really confused when we're referring to 5 different things and they're all the same thing.
I'll plus one the visualization designer as well. I think it's a reasonable name, but I also don't have a strong opinion on this. I think we should time box this to make it a call by the end of the week if we do have different ideas for other names, though.
One quick question I have, is it outputting a visualization or a panel? Because in the dashboards working group, those are two separate things. It depends if it's got a title and etc. In the visualization designer, it has a title and stuff, then it's technically a panel, not a visualization.
It's a visualization displayed in a panel.
That is exactly right.
I understand there's a difference, but it's also like a really long semantics conversation that I'm just really not unwilling to participate in.
Yeah, and I think that the thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
The thing is that in a panel, it's simply for me a box where something is displayed, which could be a component. Let's say it's a headline or a title to make it really easy and understandable, or it can be a complex visualization, which always has a query next to it, which is then basically displaying something in a panel. So I think I would definitely separate those two, because if you would say panel designer, then this would also mean around simple components like Optimize will mainly be doing in the first iterations, where they simply take all the components that they already have and put them into the box and be able to display them on the dashboard.
I also don't think many of our users are going to understand the nuance of our distinction between visualization and panel. I do like us getting away from the word query, because query, at least for me, makes me think of databases. So now I'm thinking, oh, am I doing SQL now? Which that's not what we're doing here. So that's my input on that.
Lorena, you were going to say something.
Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking for the same reason, like I think we should, the name should be descriptive of what the user will actually see, what to expect when they read that name. So not how we implement. If it's a data explorer, I think that's too generic, like how do you explore data? And they might need to do to run some analytics on that. So it's more of a process, but the visualization, it's like Tim and Sam said, it's whether it's a pen or something, a graph, they know what to expect.
Okay, but also, yeah, when you're configuring the visualization and you add it to the dashboard, the panel is the medium by which you add it to the dashboard, but that's not the end product or the end goal. So that's a rehash of what Tim said, though. But I guess we can create an issue for this and we can all vote on it, and then we can just put a due date for Friday. Would anyone like to volunteer to do that, or I can default to?
I would put those options simply in a thread in the issue that you already opened, because we mixed the discussion already in there. Take it from there and until Friday. We have a front runner with 2 pluses on that end, but if no huge thing comes up until Friday, let's go with that.
I'm with the Rob on this, and that's technically it is outputting in a panel, and I think that could cause some confusion. I think with a slight change, I think visualization designer makes complete sense, because that is what it's actually doing. But I think with a slight change, we can make it that it's outputting actually visualizations, and then improve the flow of how that gets added to dashboards. Because that's also something we need to explore. Because it's the only thing that it's doing additional that breaks the mold is we're giving a title to a panel. If we just say that that is the visualization file name or whatever, then I think it makes sense.
So are you going to suggest a new name, or are we revisiting the concept of a panel in the dashboards working group, or what's the?
No, my input is, I think visualization designer is the name to go for, in my opinion. And I think Rob isn't being overly pedantic in what the output is, because like it is outputting at a panel. We just need to maybe change that to output an actual visualization file. Because currently it's like a panel wrapped in a visualization, I think, or something.
Yeah, I agree. If it's a visualization name instead of like the title, if you just call it visualization name or whatever, outputs a visualization, and then that flow when you add it to the dashboard, it adds it to a new panel, and then you can type in your title and stuff into that panel. Visualization Designer works for me, meets our own internal criteria, and also meets the YAML output that we would expect from it as well.
So will one of you create an issue to detail that then?
Sure. I'll add it to the issue. Just make a comment there about like what maybe needs to change or what our suggestion is.
Great.
And maybe we can narrow it down to use the word designer, because that's what clicks on for me, for example, versus explorer. I do prefer to have the word designer. In fact, I was about to say that we might go with the simple one with query designer, but after hearing Dennis and some points, yeah, I will go with the second one. And just a comment.
Good. Then there was also the discussion coming up around multiple query designers. Just wanted to make, I left a comment yesterday, but just wanted to see if there are any questions or misunderstandings what I meant with this, to see if we can discuss the sync, if there are some open topics. To make it very easy. Oh, easy is always hard. You have a visualization designer for product analytics to say, okay, I want to add a panel which displays product analytics data. So you click, okay, I want to add something product analytics related. Either it's already existing, one of the YAMLs that you have already created, or you create a new visualization. Okay, super. My youngest was just telling me that he's back again, in again. And then you basically go through the flow, you set a visualization, you edit the panel to a panel at the end. But the same could go also in a different way, where you say, okay, I want to add some value stream analytics data. And the question is, if we would take any of that logic and put it in the same type of query designer, visualization designer, as we already have for product analytics, or make a very custom one for product analytics, where we rather highlight issues and merge requests and already have some opinions about what can be filtered and suggest have a project picker for the projects that you want to filter the data down, etc. So that's the only thing. Whatever is output at the end is always a YAML for a visualization which contains the query and all the visualization parameters. It's only that we might have at some point different kinds of interfaces to have them more accustomed to the specific use cases, rather than have one generic where we simply list table field names and table names, because this is the complexity that we already have in something like Sisense at the moment, for example.
So I guess
do you foresee a different user experience every time someone wants to, like, for every context then? Like my main issue is just my main thing is that I don't think this is documented anywhere. So like I would love to capture that now, or we can capture it in this meeting and we can transcribe it afterwards.
Yeah.
Is because that what's not clear is how that experience is going to look, because I wasn't sure if there would just be a screen in front before you get to the point where you define your dimensions and measures and filters, where you just select what type of data source you'd want, and from that it would just filter based on what data source you're using, and from that what visualizations are supported. So it's not clear, even from a technical implementation point of view, is it using even the same visualization designer code base, or is it basically duplicated with some reusability?
Yeah, I would reuse as much as possible, but make it customized inside out, so that we have the same kinds of visualization, but we could, for example, have a configuration where we said, okay, what visualizations are possible in what type. It's a very early idea that we might take a look, as we are currently working in Optimize to get a replica of the Postgres database also mapped into a ClickHouse database. so that all the queries that they have right now are simply much faster. But a next evolution step that might be also possible along the road is that we allow the same thing that we are working on in product analytics, but also for value stream analytics, where you say, okay, I want to know how many issues we are producing for this label every month. And a query designer for that would most probably, to be more accustomed to that use case, if this comes at some point, might be more accustomed to that use case. Maybe we can reuse components to 98% the same ones. Maybe we even do the same query designer. I don't know yet. It's just that there might be some data sources where we take a different look, but create the same file types at the end of it. And under the hood, for us, it stays the same, because I don't want to have now a YAML file format for product analytics. I think the concept that Jan has created with the data source, with the query, the data source and how it's injected is perfect. This is fantastic. But from a customer and user perspective, having something that abstracts already right now, the query designer abstracts already from the user way that there are two different views between sessions and events. And you don't even see it. You simply say, I want to know the active users, bam, bam, bam. And you don't need to know that kind of table name and so on and so on. So this is just out maybe in 6 months, maybe in 3 months, maybe we POC something and optimize, just to make you aware of my thoughts.
I'd be interested in hearing or seeing more as we go down this road with optimize, like what this might look like, because kind of where I'm getting stuck is what this would look like with respect to optimize specifically, or another group, versus, we have tables with columns and they're presented the same way as our existing tables and columns are. Like, what would be unique about that type of experience versus what we have today? That'd be what I'd be interested in getting a little bit more detail on, seeing something a little bit more concrete there.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like when we were discussing URLs, when we were discussing URLs, it'd be like multiple query designers. So does that mean like we go back to what we had before with analytics having like 10 different links to different dashboards? Like, do we have a menu at some point that like goes to different kinds of like query designers? No. That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
Because if we know we're going to reuse it, then I don't know that we need to really just make a distinction that it's the product analytics query designer, at least for now. Yeah, because if it's maybe in 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with Tim, and also Dennis's last comment that naming this a product analytics query designer is gonna like lead other teams into creating their own one, and maybe duplicating it. It would be great for me if we could lead both from an engineer and a user perspective, lead people into using the same one and then sharing as much as possible. So as Tim mentioned, like the first dropdown could be like, hey, what is your data source? Where is it going to come from? We could even have it like in a list like it currently is with sessions and tracked events. But that is a good point in that maybe there should just be the visualization designer, like the analytics visualization designer, and leave the product out of it.
I would like to say first, thank you, Tim, for engaging with this, because I am the one that raised it because I was very confused, and I appreciate you sort of blurting out everything that's being discussed with yourself and others. In terms of the main concern right now was just around the URL concept and just getting the ideas of where we're thinking the product will go over the next 6 months, the vision. So if we can document the general vision that we're aiming for, even if it can change at any point, obviously, that'd be great. From a URL point of view, I feel like this sounds like initially we could just go down the /visualization designer. And then if we want to split, we could then have after that /analytics, /VSA, /whatever. Yeah. And that then allows, if we have our product out before we make that split, we can easily redirect we can easily just have some kind of fascia in the front saying, what source are you looking to implement at that page? And that is one step removed from where people had their bookmark anyway. So it's not breaking necessarily the user flow. So from a URL point of view, I'd say keep it generic, and then we can bespoke it, narrow it down slightly, and make that easier if we want to go down this route. I do like the idea of having a preface data, pick your data source and then customize the UI based off that data source, because we won't have every visualization type for every data source, most likely.
Yeah. And it becomes super complex. That I think is one of the great problems of Sisense. It's like, or also postdoc, if you have ever used postdoc, I did a little bit. It's like, here's everything. and it's like, makes it much harder to get to results, I believe. So cool. Sam, you had a thing about, I think, but this
so
was
real quick,
already...
I'm doing a demo at 3 p.m. today. The internal handbook's down. Do we expect the fix to be merged by 3 p.m. so I could use the handbook, or should I plan on using my GDK locally instead?
It'll be fixed by then.
Cool.
I just wanted to clarify that that merge request does not fix the production issue.
Okay. Well, that will save me a lot of time fighting my local GDK. It is broken once again. We're over time now. Anything else we want to go through before we break? All right. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate the conversation today. We'll talk soon. See ya.
folks.
Take care, everyone. Bye.